Welcome to Beyond the Pod, presented by SodaStick.com.
Brunette, he moves, Brunette back in, he scores! Minnesota has upset the Colorado Avalanche! Andrew Brunette, the game-winning goal!
Here are your hosts, the second greatest scorer in Gopher hockey history, Pat Micheletti, and the second greatest hockey analyst on this podcast, Brandon Mileski.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. It's brought to you by SodaStick.com. I'm Brandon Mileski, the great Pat Micheletti with me as well. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Brandon. Good to see you.
Good to see you as always. We're 3 weeks away from the National Hockey League draft, which means it's time to check in with the Director of Amateur Scouting for the Minnesota Wild, Judd Brackett. Judd, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. This time of the year when you're kind of leading up to the draft, what is your feeling? Because this is kind of your big moment of the year. Is it excitement, anxiety? What's kind of the emotions for you?
Yeah, it's a mix of emotions for sure. It's always exciting. You know, it's a long year of work for us. A lot of travel, a lot of communication, a lot of players seen, but it's also, you know, we're picking at 24, so there's a lot of waiting and watching and anticipation. So with that comes some anxiety and stress, and you know, hoping the players that we've identified maybe slip down to us, or other teams view them differently. But so that creates some stress and some sleepless nights and tossing and turning. But overall, it's excitement.
What's the overall feeling on this year's draft compared to last? Good class?
It is a good class. You know, I think maybe a little less consensus this year. You know, in terms of, you know, I think you'll see some variation as early as in the top 10 this year. You know, I think maybe the first 5 or 6 players, there's some consensus in this year, and then I think we'll have you know, some unexpected or varying views on players. But overall, I think it's a good class, and I think there's a good depth to it, and you know, that also comes with a chance of actually getting out and seeing players this year too, just feeling like you know more players.
You know, we talk about this every year, and it's so hard because, you know, we're talking about 18-year-old kids, and you know, they're going to be different in 3 or 4 years from now. But are there any that you look at and you can say, this guy's probably pretty close to NHL ready?
Yeah, I mean, I you know, it's going to be at the top of the draft most likely, that the players that are closest to being ready. But there are a couple that are going to certainly challenge. You know, it's tough. It depends upon where they were a year ago too. Some players missed a full year of hockey, a full year of development. You know, so when I look at this class, I don't see anyone that it needs to be in a hurry or an accelerated route. I think we're all still sort of coming out of the COVID hockey plan, which was limited whether you were in the Western League and playing in a bubble, or the OHL and not playing at all. You know, and some of the, you know, in Europe, some of the, you know, the J20 and J18 leagues didn't play. So, you know, when I look at this class, I think it's more of a long-term expectation and get guys back on the development plan and where they want to be when, you know, when the time's right.
I was going to ask,
is some of it also, you know, what organization, you know,
I mean, for sure.
You know, if a guy went, hey, maybe we should rush him, or maybe we shouldn't, or look at our depth is good, let's let him get, you know, a little bit more mature.
Yeah, and there's, you know, each organization is going to have a different plan. They might have a bigger need right now. They might have more opportunity. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, where those paths intersect, when a player's ready and when the opportunity is there, it'll present itself. So, you know, I think, you know, that's the model certainly in Minnesota, is there's no rush. We want to develop players correctly and give them the best chance to succeed when they arrive.
I was going to ask you the pandemic portion of this in terms of your evaluation of these players, because as you mentioned, some of these players, like in the OHL, they miss an entire season. How does, you know, from an evaluation standpoint, this year compared to past years, do you feel like you still have the same judgment and evaluation, or do you feel like you have a less complete picture with a lot of these prospects, and does that make it more challenging for you?
We have a really good snapshot of, you know, their draft year, so to speak. So their 17 year, you know, going in, but you know, there is a gap. There's definitely some missing information from last year. You know, and even, you know, if you target the OHL right now, you know, some of these players, are all of them in their draft year, it's also their rookie year. So that's, a lot of them in years past would have a chance to play that rookie year, understand maybe where they hit a wall, what they need to work on, and come back and have a big, have sort of a pop in their development, which is then their draft year. So there could still be some players that outperform maybe their draft slot next year as a draft +1. We might be looking back and saying, geez, he really took a big step, and that might have been due to not having his underage year.
When you look at players and, let's say a kid may play in the collegiate level, a kid may play in the European League, a kid, in Western Canada or the Ontario League, and then looking at, okay, did this kid play in the World Junior Championships? Did he play in the World Championships? Is it hard to gauge sometimes if you really, really like a player, right, and he hasn't played in the World Championships against older, the veteran guys? Is it hard sometimes to evaluate or put a number on them?
No question. It's the hardest part of the job is the translation from country to country, league to league, level to level. It is not, it's not the same players in the same league playing against each other nightly. And even to your point, some of the international experiences are short tournaments. It's 5 games for some guys, 4 games. There could be an injury. You might be asked to play in a role that isn't what you play with your club team. So, we try to take all these variations into account, and that's where, being as informed as you can be and getting as much information as possible comes into play, because you're making, the best educated decision you can based on projection and what you have. So it's hard. You've got guys playing in Minnesota high school, and you've got guys playing in the SHL in Sweden, and they're in the same pool. So that's the hardest part of being an amateur scout, for sure.
Well, a quick story. I want to commend you on your pick last year of Wallstead, because I get literally weekly updates from a former friend of mine who won a Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers back in the day. Mike Zanier, goaltender, right? Yeah. He played, and he played in Europe, and now is a color commentator in the Swedish league. And he DMs me literally, "Oh, you guys got a good one. You guys got a good one." So well done.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's we're excited. Jesper's got, incredible amount of experience at his age already for, how many games he's played in the SHL and internationally. I mean, you think back to, there's only been one Ivan Halinka in Edmonton, and it feels like it's ages ago, and he played in that. So he played in it as a double underage and played in the gold medal game. So, his path has been extremely advanced, and, we were thrilled to see him there, and it's a long-term need. Having a backbone like that on your back end is always so important.
As you mentioned, you have right now you have pick number 24 in the first round of the draft. I want to talk specifically the first round. When you are, trying to evaluate all of the players, do you focus more on players that you think will drop into the 24 range? Or I guess I'm bringing this up because this might be a weird year where all of a sudden, you got a guy like Kevin Fiala that you might be able to trade to get a top 10-ish pick. How much time do you spend on guys in the top 10 when it's probably not likely you're going to draft there, but it's possible, compared to, the range of players you're most likely to choose from?
Well, we always have to be prepared, no matter where we're selecting, without giving away any secrets, so to speak. But, we certainly didn't feel that Wallstead was going to be someone in our range, but we were prepared and had a chance to move up. So you always have to be ready. If we acquire another pick, for us, there's going to be no scrambling around and reevaluating and redoing of the list. We've done the work, and we've done it based on, if we had the very next selection in the draft, who's the player we want. So we're prepared to pick at any number, if it's a move back, move up, or if we stand still and pick it right at 24. So that's how we go about it. We have to be ready. If something happens, we can't stand there and look at each other and say, "Oh, geez, we didn't anticipate this, and we're in trouble now. We're scrambling."
Okay, so I was a forward, right? Brandon was a defenseman. I don't know what you were, Judd.
He was a goalie.
I'm sorry. A goalie. You were a
goalie.
We
could get a team together here.
Yeah,
that's good. All right, yeah, we did. I'm getting old, so I forget. So I apologize. But that being said, right? When it comes to goalies, how difficult is it to evaluate a goaltender, compared to, a defenseman or a forward? It's got to be tough.
It is. It's there's a few more intricacies. Obviously, technique is really important. How they're trained, but the hardest part, honestly, for the draft and goalies is not many 17-year-olds start on their club team, right? It's you look around the CHL. There's not many 17-year-old goalies that are their number one, that are playing, that are getting the reps, that are getting the opportunities nightly. Especially when it comes to playoffs or high performance, situations or high stress situations. So that can be troublesome. And then overall, it's a late developing position, right? It takes time. It takes, you've got to go through the evolutions and see the shooters at the next level, the speed changes, and continue to be, to perform at that level. So, you have to clear each hurdle. There's not a lot of skipping of steps for goaltenders. I don't think there's many Tom Barrassos out there. They're going to go from public high school straight to the National Hockey League. I don't think we'll see that again.
Judd, have you noticed at all a change in the skill level with youth and amateur players over the last 5-10 years? I'm just all of a sudden seeing on Instagram and TikTok things that were never taught to myself and probably Pat to another level, right? Like, I mean, just the amount of skill level and the creativity and the amount of the drills that you see that I'd never even imagined. I have to imagine, like 5-10 years from now, like we're gonna have a bunch of kids that are trying to skate like Kirill Kaprizov and do their edge work like Kaprizov and do stick handles, like, and doing the Michigan move and all that stuff. Have you noticed, just watching the kids now, a difference from maybe 5-10 years ago?
100% across the board. The skill level, whether in the skating too, it's not just the hand skills and puck skills. But the skating, the speed of the game, and it's being encouraged, right? It's being encouraged to be creative. It's, to play at breakneck speeds and to see offense. So I 100% see that as a continuing trend. It's exciting. It's the fans love it. I mean, the offense, the goals. I mean, I don't want to miss a shift when Kirill's out there. He's doing something special all the time. So, for the young kids out there, that's who they're going to emulate and watch. And I've got young ones and they're out there doing all the things that I would never even have thought of doing before.
And then you see some of these guys, and some of these guys do magical stuff with the puck. But then do you have to take a step back and say, okay, that's good, that's great, that's skill, but we're talking about the National Hockey League, and will some of the stuff fly and what won't fly, and just in terms of the overall game.
100%. You still want to see someone that can play 5-on-5, that comes back with back pressure and back checks correctly and plays on the inside and plays low. And it's great to have all that skill and creativity, but you still have to be able to make an impact. And you have to do it 5-on-5. It can't just be on the power play. It can't just be when it's in the offensive zone or in an odd man rush. It's great to see it, but we're looking for, still looking for the full package of player too.
Yeah.
How much stock do you put into the combine? Do your opinions ever change at all after the combine?
Sure, we try. I mean, it can. If we try not to let it sway us one way, with a big jump up or down. But getting a chance to sit down and talk to a player, you might get a nugget or two that either one that draws some concern, or you're like, geez, I really like this kid. He's wired the right way and feels like he'd be great in our room. So you can get some information that way. And then similarly, on body mechanics and function and movement. So, you see some guys that might have, through some of the testing, you might see something that you identify with that you're like, what, I actually see that in his skating too. And if we feel that's going to be a hindrance to further development or improvement, we'll take it into consideration. But overall, it's more information, but it's really not going to deter or really jump someone up too far on the list.
A position like yours, I have to imagine mentally can be a little challenging sometimes in terms of, let's face it, like you're not going to hit at 100% all the time, right? It's probably like a baseball game where you're going to hit a home run occasionally, you're going to get a double, but you're going to strike out, and you might even have a hit, but you're going to, I would have to imagine there's plenty of times where you got guys behind you just because there's a whole, a bunch of players available that one's bound to hit that was drafted behind you. How do you avoid just the stewing over picks that maybe you have missed in the past? I guess getting over it.
It's hard. You're right. I mean, we're always going back and revisiting drafts, and hindsight's 20/20 in this business, and we're trying to get better every year. You make a point. We probably won't hit every single year, but it is our expectation. It is what we're striving for. And if we can mitigate risks along the way, or if we feel like we've identified certain spots where we can, we will. It is a high fail business. I mean, out of 200 players, 210 or so players, I mean, the majority are not going to find their way to the National Hockey League, but that doesn't mean on draft day that we don't think that they have something that can get them there, or that we haven't identified a certain skill set or a certain quality in their game that we feel gives them a chance. It's then, on them to continue to develop, our development staff to continue to work with them and hope that we can unearth that quality we saw. But we know there's risks, and we know there's some that are greater risks than others. So we're going to try to avoid some pitfalls and hopefully, hit on a sort of a Wade Boggs percentage. Just since you're going with baseball, we want to be batting in that range.
You had to go the Boston guy, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I was thinking Tony Gwynn, but I mean, I had to stay with Boston.
Luis Arraez is the Twin who's leading the league in hitting right now.
Better find a pitching staff this year. Now, I should know this, but I don't, so I'm asking you. As of today, how many picks do you have in this draft?
We have 7 picks. We have 1 in the first, 2 in the second, and then we do not have a 7th round pick.
Okay.
I want to ask you, I don't know how keen you are talking about individual players, but there is a guy who's going to be playing for the Minnesota Gophers that could go top 3, maybe even number 1 in this draft, and Logan Cooley. Can you, for Gopher fans that haven't seen him, can you kind of describe his game?
Sure, absolutely. I think they're going to be really excited to see him play. Tremendous skater. So first thing you'll notice is his acceleration and speed, especially on the big sheet there. I think he's going to exploit a lot of teams in transition, but he's not just an offensive player. He's a two-way center, really high motor, competes all over the ice, quick hands, very creative around the net. And, for Gopher fans too, his line mate for much of the year is coming in too, and Jimmy Snuggerud. So they already have some chemistry, I would imagine. Probably have a chance to see them play together again next year.
Yeah, and Cooley, he's pretty sure of himself in a good way. He thinks he's ready to play. Maybe he is, maybe isn't. Who knows? We'll take him. The kid I absolutely love, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not going to say it. But the kid from Slovakia, played in the Olympics, played in the World Championships. Is he more of a winger, or does he have the ability to play center?
I've seen him play center in his age group. I do think going forward, I see more of a wing, big body, powerful, drives the lane, pushes defenders back, and is excellent at getting off the wall to the middle of the net with that shot too. Yeah. And he's a big boy. He's a horse out there, and he can skate. He's got hands. He's had a tremendous year. I mean, you think of where he's played in terms of the Olympics and World Championships and playing in the men's league in Finland. He's pretty well tested at this point too.
Positionally, from forward, defense, goalie, do you see one position having an edge over others in this draft?
I would say forwards. We've had in terms of going back on goalies, I think we've had an incredible run here. The last 3 years on really super high end goaltenders. This class doesn't quite match it, but there's like I said, it's a late developing position. You never know where these guys are going to come from, and some of the later picks really turn out to be the best goalies. So we haven't closed our eyes there, and there's certainly some high end defensemen that are going to go in the top 10 as well. So it's pretty well spread out, but I'd probably give the edge to forwards.
So during the playoffs, when the Wild were in it, versus the Blues and stuff, are you on the road, or are you with the team? Are you watching much, or are you concentrating on all your amateur kids?
We're still on the road at that point, watching and watching at night or have it tuned in on our drive home from the game that we're at and texting each other. And, it's like everybody else in Minnesota, it's an exciting time for us too. We don't get in and see the games, but, we're tuned in, paying attention maybe too much when we're supposed to be at games watching. We're checking scores and seeing how the team's doing. So we're following along, and it's an exciting time for us too. But we're still out. We're still traveling at that point of the year.
Last one, Judd. If you need someone to scout out the beer leagues in Minnesota, I'm available if you want to hire me for your staff.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you, Judd. Appreciate it. Good luck in the draft.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Judd Brackett, Director of Amateur Scouting for the Minnesota Wild. Before
I was going to ask you, what did you post last night?
We won the championship. Yeah.
What, softball?
Hockey Finder. Yeah, with men's league hockey.
I thought you retired from that. But
the problem is the league has never had a trophy, so I didn't even know we had a trophy. So half our team had already left. Like, we were all fully dressed. We didn't have our hockey equipment anymore, and all of a sudden there's a trophy. I'm like, oh, we won. But yeah, we won the ship last night, Pat. Thanks.
Yep. I got a doozy for you whenever.
Hold on. Yeah, yep. Before we move on, we got to get to our sponsor Beyond the Pod. That would be sodastick.com. Go to sodastick.com. Get your original Minnesota sports inspired goods. If you haven't seen this stuff yet, you got to check it out. All of their apparel screen printed here in Minnesota on super soft, super comfy shirts. And you will love it. We're going to hook you up with 15% off your next order. So use the code KFAN for 15% off. That is sodastick.com. Original Minnesota sports inspired goods. Use the code KFAN for 15% off your next order. Go ahead, Pat.
I want to get our fans going here, right?
Oh, boy.
Our Minnesota Wild fans, our hockey fans, our state of hockey. You want to get them excited.
Okay.
Here's what I'm, and you might think I'm crazy, and a lot of people think I'm crazy.
I do.
And I don't know if this is even workable. Okay. It's might not be workable. Here's what I would love to see the Minnesota Wild do if they could.
Okay.
If it's inevitable that they're going to trade Fiala, right?
Yep.
Maybe not, but looks that way. Then you have Matt Dumba there also, correct?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you'll create some cap space, correct? Yeah.
If you get rid of both of them, yes.
Yep. So my proposal would be to trade both of them. Okay.
Yep.
And then in the return for Fiala, you would get a high draft pick, and a young player on an ELC, or two, or a couple draft picks. And then you trade Dumba for whatever you can get for him. Okay. And then, Brandon, you make a push. Are you ready?
I am.
Nazem Kadri.
Wow.
Because then all of a sudden, up the middle, you have Kadri, Hartman, and Eck. I love that. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know what Kadri would want. It certainly wouldn't be more than what Kaprizov is making. So it might be $1 million, $1.5 million less.
He gave himself a nice little raise with the season he just had.
No question. No question.
How old is he now?
He's not 30. He's not 30 yet.
Seems like he's been around for a while.
Been around. He was with obviously Toronto. Who was he with before Toronto? I can't recall. But nonetheless, I would be all in on that.
He's 31 years old.
Oh, he is 31. Still, I would take that risk.
I mean, it's.
But then my second.
Well, before you move on, I've always been kind of anti Nazem Kadri, and I'll have to admit he had a great season, and I didn't see that coming. And I would also say, just because you're able to score with Colorado doesn't mean no. Now the Wild finally have players where if you come from a team that with other great players and come here, your scoring is not necessarily going to come down, but I still don't absolutely trust him.
Okay, that's fair, and that's fine.
And I don't know if I want to pay him what you're going to have to pay him.
Okay. And here's the kicker out of it. That way, if you move to Fiala, you could, and it might end up being that way anyway, but you could get that draft pick. You could get that younger player and really still have your future pretty much intact with some of the younger players that you have.
Yeah.
My second option on that, then, if you didn't like a Kadri, and this one's a little bit tougher because he plays the wing, but really played center in college, is Gaudreau, Johnny Gaudreau.
Yeah.
Now, he may, with the year he had, he may be a little too pricey, but
yes,
you could kick the tires on him. There's going to be a lot of players.
You're the only one in the Twin Cities trying to go after the big name money guys in this league.
I know I am, but I think there's that's why I kind of want to think out of the box a little bit instead of boom, that's it.
I love me some Johnny Hockey. Would love to have him on the team. Eventually though, how many left-handed forwards are you going to get? And
that's a great point.
And you're never going to be able to address the center position unless Marco Rossi becomes the guy, and hopefully he does. But now you're really banking on Rossi because you're not going to be able to improve at center in any other form.
And and Gaudreau doesn't want to play center too. Maybe likes being.
Gaudreau's going to get a lot of money too. He's going to get a lot of money.
Yeah, he's going to get 9.
I think you'd be surprised. I think Kadri, I bet, will get close to 9 as well. When you're out in free agency, someone's going to overpay for you.
Well, yeah, every year does happen. So that's my pipe dream, if possible. But there will be others out there, and we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
I guess maybe I'm going the Twins route here. I'm going the Polad route, and I'm going bargain bin shopping.
Okay.
I have a name for you that I'm bringing up just for you. And please. I just want to preface this by saying I'm not necessarily saying I want to do this, just that I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
I'm sitting down.
Your guy, Phil Kessel. Okay. Now, he's 34 years old.
Yep.
He's coming off a poor season. He only scored 8 goals this year. Mm-hmm. His production went down when he went to Arizona over the last 3 years compared to, his years in Pittsburgh where he was 80, 90 points a season over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think maybe it's possible that you can get him on the cheap because of what I mentioned. 34 years old, coming off a career worst season, only had 8 goals. Does he maybe, not that Minnesota's his home, but it's near his home. He's lived here for a year with the Gophers. Would he maybe want to come here for a 1-year prove-it deal on a cheap contract? He's right-handed. He'd be great on the right-handed spot on the power play, which is dearly missing from the Minnesota Wild. In terms of bargain bin hunting, and I don't know what he could get in free agency. I don't think anyone's going to commit to him for a 3-year contract anymore, and no one's going to commit to him at $5-6 million anymore. I just think it's possible, and he has history with Bill Guerin in Pittsburgh. All of a sudden, at the right price, I might have a little bit of interest here, Pat.
I don't think that's crazy because what's the one area that they need to fix?
Power play.
Yep. And he is a phenomenal passer, one of the best passers in the league. He can still, he's not as fast as he was, but he's still fast enough. And I think if you used him properly, you're not going to play him in a top 6 role. You're not going to play him 15, 18 minutes a night. Some nights you will, some nights you can. If he was your floater, type guy at a reasonable price, I see no problem at all with them going after him because remember, there's going to be a lot of young players on this team, and they're going to go through their ups and downs. And when they're going through their downs, or they're learning a little bit, or they need to sit up in the stands and watch just to see how the game is played, that's where you have, we'll plug Phil in, and we'll use him on our power play, or maybe he will suit up every night and be on your 4th line, depending on who you're playing, what type of structure the team you're playing against has. And so I think you got to be smart about it, but if it was reasonably priced, I would certainly consider it.
All right, game one of the Stanley Cup Final last night. The Avs win 4-3 in overtime over the Lightning. I was not able to watch the game last night, Pat. It appeared as if it was a really good game.
The place was absolutely bananas. And Colorado came out on fire. I mean, they, what you got to expect. And John Cooper even said, we knew they were going to do that. The first goal on Mileski, he'd certainly love to have back. But I thought once the game settled in, it was a really, really, really good hockey game. Tampa scores twice in 48 seconds. I picked Tampa in 5. I still think Tampa's going to win this series, but man, it was phenomenal hockey.
Bruce Cassidy hired as the head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. There are rumors of John Tortorella at the time we're taping this podcast. There's rumors that he could be with Chuck Fletcher in Philadelphia. Your thoughts on those two? And
I've heard Barry Trotz to Winnipeg.
What should be scary if you're a Wild fan?
Yeah.
The guy has a history of taking a team and all of a sudden turning them into a defensive juggernaut. And at least for a 2-3 year stretch, he can get the most out of his players.
Yeah, not a fun style to watch play, but he's been successful with it. Cassidy to Vegas.
Yep.
He has history with George McPhee. They were both together in Washington. I think McPhee fired him. And now they hire him there. I was really surprised he got fired from Boston. Was told that you're good, you're safe, and then all of a sudden, they make the change. So, they've gone through 3 coaches, Brandon, since their existence, and it's really, really kind of surprising to me. It's kind of like them dipping into free agency or making all these trades. There never seems to be any stability. They like to just put it together quickly and scrambly, and yep, we have all the names and we're gonna win it. So he's got the task of handling Jack Eichel next year. So
Vegas will be an interesting team next year.
I'm not going to rip Chuck Fletcher, but I would be, he's trying everything. He's trying everything. And now he maybe thinks that, well, if I get a real hard-nosed guy in there who's going to be tough on our guys, all of a sudden we're going to get better. Ultimately, Brandon, you know this. I know this. If you don't have the players, you're not going to win. If you don't have them, you're not going to win. And they've brought in some players that, quite frankly, they're expecting to be the guys, and they're not. And in that Eastern Conference, if you don't have players, if you don't have speed, if you don't have skill, and you don't have great goaltending, you're not going to win. And they don't have it right now. So I don't know how much a coach can do there.
Final topic for you regarding your Gopher hockey team. Cruz Lucius, the younger brother of Chaz Lucius, who played just one season last year for the Gophers. He ended up signing with the Winnipeg Jets. He was a first-round pick of theirs. Cruz Lucius decommitted from the Gophers in May, and now he has committed right across the border to Wisconsin.
Yeah, you can keep chasing, keep looking, keep trying. I have not seen the kid play very much. He's going to be a first-round pick from what I hear in the middle of the draft. I was disappointed that his brother signed so early. I don't think it's the best thing for him right now. Still has a lot of developing to do, but he obviously didn't feel right about his choice, and will go and play for Tony Granato in Wisconsin.
All right, Pat, it's that time. End of the podcast. It's time for stick taps. Do you have one?
Well, yeah, I'm going to just go to the National Hockey League and in the playoffs. I think I think the league has done a great job. really, really have enjoyed this playoffs more so than any. Not a ton better than what we've seen in the past, but every night is must watch hockey.
All right, I'm going to give my stick tap to. I saw the story, I believe, on the hat you're wearing right now on Fox9.com. There was a story about a little less than a week ago about an all-black hockey team called the Panthers, which is a team made up of 16 players from 7 different states. They competed this past weekend in the Minneapolis 2022 AAA Summer Showdown Hockey Tournament at Richfield Ice Arena. It's sad that we're in a position where we feel like we have to create an all-black hockey team, but I love that they did that, and I want as much diversity as possible in this great sport of ours.
Absolutely. Way back in the day, I used to work with the inner city kids a little bit, trying to get them going and giving them a chance. We had a lot of equipment drives and, providing stuff for them. And I'm glad, I'm happy to see that, the age group of what you just talked about is where they're at. And it's wonderful because, hey, as we all say, Brandon, hockey is for everyone.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Pat. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a great day, Brandon. Thanks.
All right. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pod. As always, it is brought to you by SodaStick.com. We will talk to you next week on Beyond the Pod. Bye.